Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by our coach, former high school football coach at Bernie, Capel, Brownwood, Rotan, Belton. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there in multiple stints, and was on the University of Texas coaching staff for multiple head coaches. Coach Bob Shipley, what's going on, Coach? How you doing?
What's happening?
Oh man, good to see you, Coach. Good to be 9-1. We
Isn't
talk
that
about
right?
9-1 football team, even though
Yeah,
there's
that's
some
right.
complaining about it.
It's exciting times for sure.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And of course, we'll be talking about some of those exciting times here on Football Theory. Before we get started, let me let you know that Football Theory brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. Play any matchup, hundreds of college player props, and more. I'll tell you more about our friends at MyBookie after we let you know what we're getting into on the show. Coach, after what a lot of Longhorn fans deemed as a let down or subpar performance offensively versus Arkansas, I want to talk about what I think one of the big reasons were, and I think we all agreed that three high defense that Longhorn fans have been talking so much about. We'll dive into a little bit, get into some of the X's and O's of that, and how Sark has countered it in the past successfully. In case Longhorn fans are a little paranoid about it appearing on the schedule again, which I think it might very well could, even this weekend coming up versus Kentucky. Also, we'll get into the Texas run game a little bit and talk about the variety in the run game. Maybe you can call it inconsistency. I'm going to call it variety in the run game instead of inconsistency in the run game because I want to be a glass half full kind of take here. So we'll get into that and talk about the Texas run game a little bit. But before we get started, let me thank our friends over at MyBookie. With all the excitement of this season, make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. Bet any matchup, hundreds of college player props, and take advantage of weekly risk-free bets. The best part is you can do it all anytime, anywhere, straight from your phone. Visit mybookie.ag and use the promo code ONTexas to get started. It's MyBookie's 10-year anniversary, which means they're rolling out the red carpet for each and every one of you. You can bet big and bet confidently with risk-free Thursdays. If your boosted bet doesn't hit, you'll get your money back weekly. No sweat, win-win bets all season long. And sign up right now. Use the code ONTexas to cash in on a double deposit bonus. It's a no-brainer. Double the cash in your account before you even place your first bet. But don't wait. Get on this special right now. It's only available for a limited time, only with MyBookie. For those of you who've been playing with MyBookie for years and winning with MyBookie for years, they've got something for you as well. A brand new loyalty rewards program in MyBookie Plus. It's simple. The more you play, the more you earn. And as you progress through the tiers, you'll unlock exclusive promotions, epic giveaways, and cash back in your account. That's mybookie.ag. Use the promo code ONTexas to cash in on that double deposit bonus. And remember, at that loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus. All right, Coach, let's dive into it. A lot of Longhorn fans didn't think 20 points was enough against Arkansas, but I do think we should give Arkansas some credit. Arkansas coaches had a good defensive game plan versus Texas. Did a really good job with that three-high shell of limiting Texas a little bit. And just to kind of give people like a blanket kind of overview of the three-high shell, it is just that it's a shell. I know some people kind of talk about it as being three deep. I see it's different. You could keep the three deep because they have the three deep safeties. They can go from three high to three deep, but also they could shift and they could roll into a two high look from that, drop one of the safeties down, or they can go to a single middle field safety look from that, drop two of the safeties down, and they could do a lot of different things. They run the same coverages, and it's the same. I think the same defensive looks you actually get from a single deep safety and from two deep safeties, Coach. They just put three of them, and it's new, and there's a novelty aspect to it where we don't necessarily, because it's less than 10 years old, people don't necessarily have built-in beaters for three deep safeties. Think of everything defensively as binary. You had one deep safety or two deep safeties, and it was like that for decades. And now, as a counter, teams have three deep safeties, and that I think is throwing teams off a little bit because the entire playbook has been built on beating a single deep safety and beating two deep safeties. And now you're just starting to see the evolutionary adaptation for coaches to have a plan to beat three deep safeties, or when what they do in rolling and shifting those three deep safeties into a middle of the field closed look, which is single deep safety, middle of the field is closed off, or a middle of the field open, which is two deep safeties. It's the same thing. It's just they get there differently now with the three high.
Yeah, I used to like to run the two robber out of that. It's looked like a three shell, and then that free safety comes up and it's robbing what I would do to attack it, and that's running the mid square ends, underneath those safeties. Because if you're reading three across and you're confident in that as a quarterback, well, then when you go back, when you're dropping back, you're looking at people going underneath to get to your square end, for example. You're not looking at that free safety probably. And so he may start off and backpedal a couple of steps, and he's coming in to rob anything in the underneath middle of the field, which I think is the most vulnerable. Because look at this. If you're running a three shell, the best way offensively to help a defense is to run a condensed set. Okay, you run a condensed set. Now you've got 8 guys around, a lot closer to the line of scrimmage than you normally have. You split those guys out. Now they have to go to a 5-man front. They have to. If they don't, then you can just nickel and dime them to death, because what they'll try to do, for example, if on your inside receivers, you need to split them out wide. They'll try to, walk a guy out there kind of halfway, not totally committed to coming off the edge, but not totally committed to covering the flat or the other guy. And so it gives you 5-man front. So there's some things that you can do against it, but it's a great defense to run, like you said, to disguise. You can basically run almost any coverage out of it. I mean, it'd be hard to run one free if those corner type guys are too deep. You can
just hit them, quick hitters pretty easy.
Yeah, but other than that, you can roll to 2, you can roll to 4. There's a lot of good things you can do out of it. And obviously people are figuring that out, especially as it matches up against Texas offense. And certainly it's not a good matchup for Texas. Sometimes you go in and play against a team, and one team will just light them up and the other team won't have near as much success offensively. And it could be simply that what we do fits their defense better for us offensively, And so it may just be the matchup of the two schemes as much as the talent. But I think it's effective, and I look for Sark to start dialing up, because I guarantee you, if what they've tried isn't working, he'll be on the phone with every offensive genius in the country trying to figure out, picking their brains, figuring out, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're thinking, and run it past people. I wouldn't think that's very uncommon.
Oh no, I totally agree with you, Coach. And I think ultimately, if Texas could run the ball effectively, that's what you want to do versus the 3 high defense with 3 safeties. Because as you point out, they're presenting you with a lighter box most of the time. They're going to present you with a light box unless they're bringing down those safeties late to be contained in the run game or to fit in the run game. And you'd love to just be able to hand the rock off and then run the rock and then force them out of that disguise. I look at it because that's the really, to me, the secret sauce of the 3 high is deception. As you point out, if you can get past the disguise and deception, they're running all the same coverages that you are used to seeing. It's just the shell and disguise of it. They get there differently. And while you're processing that obviously as a quarterback, that could get you holding on to the ball too long. They could put pressure packages to get to you while you're trying to process exactly what coverage they're in. So to me, the key is, and I think Sark actually may have been one of the leading authorities on it because he faced it so much in the Big 12, is to force the 3 high out of its shell. And how do you get them to tip their disguise? How do you get them to abandon their disguise? All right, prior to the snap. How can you do that? Can you and Sark, I think, did a brilliant job of it in the Big 12 with, I thought, a lot of extreme sets and extreme formations. And I thought it really helped them be able to, force the 3 high to either get to their run fits or get to their alignment and assignment pre-snap, and then therefore clean up the pre-snap read of the quarterback. I'll get the unbalanced sets. Last year, I went back and looked at the teams in the Big 12 that Texas played that had a lot of three high shell looks. Either they majored in it or minored in it, or when they played Texas, they used it. And that was easily close to half the schedule. Sark had a game plan for him. He actually used the 6-0 line package. That's what he says he doesn't like to use it anymore, and I respect that. But last year versus the teams that utilized the three high versus Texas, you were averaging with your 6-0 line package, the Big 11, Big 12, over 5 yards per rush. It's pretty damn good, but damn near 12 yards per pass, which I thought was really good because it gave you insulation and pass protection to try to figure out process exactly what the defense was doing, what coverage they were in, and then you can hit some of those chuck yardage plays downfield because you had protection. And he doesn't want to use that anymore, and I get it. His version of that now is simply the 12 personnel. Texas used 43% 12 personnel in that game versus Arkansas, and I believe that was as high as they've used 12 personnel all season long, Coach. So he just figures he's got two capable blockers and receivers, so he doesn't want to limit the offense now, and he said that with an extra offensive lineman, which is not a threat in the passing game. And I totally get Sark's paid more money than us, and he's got a better game plan for it. But that did work because I thought it was an extreme measure by Texas, and you have to respect another offensive lineman on the field as a defense. You have to, as you know, Coach. Otherwise, they'll just run it down your throat with the extra mass that they have on the field. I think that was why it worked well versus the three high in the Big 12. But the SEC is a different league, different ecosystem. So maybe he figures it won't work well in this league because it's a line of scrimmage league.
Well, if it's going to work, then we need to run it. You know, I mean, you don't know if you don't run it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's worked in the past, and it seems like to me it's worth another shot, you know, just to see at this point in the season, you've got to come up with different nuances in your offense and of course defense. But I'm with you. Let's try it. See if we can move the ball down the field. It'll certainly get them out of a three shell.
Yeah, I think to me that's the purpose, and I think Sark was brilliant coming up with that solution in the Big 12. It seemed like, well, like I said, I'm psychoanalyzing Sark. I don't know if that's what he was thinking, but it seemed to me that's what he was thinking because something else I found, Coach, is unbalanced. Like this unbalanced quad set he would use versus like Iowa State, TCU, and K-State, and it would cover up an eligible receiver, but essentially doing the same thing that you would do with the extra offensive lineman, giving you another insulation and pass protection. Most of the time he'd cover up, I believe, the tight end on the line of scrimmage and basically just turn that guy into another blocker.
Right.
And they would run out of it and they would throw out of it. And I actually, based on my numbers, you're completing over 70 when they face three high teams that either major or minored in it versus Texas. When you use that unbalanced quad sets, over 70% completion percentage, nearly 9 yards per attempt, running out of it, you were close to 6 yards per rush. It seems to me, and I haven't seen it this year, I don't think, or I didn't see it versus Arkansas, I should say. You haven't really faced a lot of teams that are running the three high versus you. Everybody has it in their repertoire, but not a lot of teams have utilized it and deployed it versus Texas like Arkansas did. Sark said they used it exclusively. I thought that would have been something he would have went to, and we didn't see that, to my knowledge, either versus Arkansas. Worked really well, and I thought that was part of his solution to the three high in the Big 12. So Sark's I think he's got solutions. I just, for some reason, either he didn't want to use them or didn't think that they were appropriate or applicable versus Arkansas, in my opinion. He sprinkled in some of the pony, and the pony works versus everything. But the pony, my numbers say the pony works really well versus the three highs as well. But like I said, the pony works every time, all the time.
Yeah. Speaking of pony, let's talk about a running game.
Let's do it. Yeah, that's something else that I think, I've been calling it inconsistent, Coach, and I'm about to change it up a little bit. I'm just going to start saying the running game has a lot of variety. Because usually I think offenses like to have a bread and butter concept, a go-to concept that they can run, that they run, better than everybody else. And that's something that no matter what front they face, no matter what team they face, they can effectively, successfully execute that run game concept. That hasn't really been the case this year. That usually has been outside zone, and Sark admitted that they've struggled running outside zone this year compared to previous years. So it may be the running backs themselves, maybe it's just the O-line. But considering how experienced the O-line is and how long they've been together, the cohesion and continuity, I think they'd be better running that concept this year. But I will say other concepts have popped. They can't impose their will with the run game, coach, but they have been able to run the ball when they need to. And it's been something different. Like last week against Arkansas, your buck sweep averaged damn near 8 yards per rush. That was the one that Jaden Blue popped the 28-yarder on. And you ran a lot of do-or-die. That's what you close with. Versus Florida, it was your counter and your outside zone that became your moneymaker. The split wide zone versus Oklahoma was the one. I mean, you had your 3 biggest chunk yardage runs of the game, or at least for running backs, out of that concept. What do you notice that it seems to be something different every week, or would you say that Texas, it has just that much diversity in their running game, or is that a good thing or a bad thing that it's not just one thing every week? It seems to be a little something different week to week.
Yeah, I don't like it. Now, some of the blocking schemes can be the same for the line. It's just different. You may have a back lead and you may have a back kicking out a defensive end or whatever. But for example, a power play for the lineman is a power play. It doesn't matter what you do behind it. Even if you give it to a wing back coming through on a little inside reverse, I mean, it's the same. But I think that you have to really be good at something. And it seems like we're throwing stuff up against the wall. I wonder, though, Rod, if it's not because he's trying to figure out what our backs do well. And obviously we've got Blue and we've got bigger guys. You give it to inside, and we just don't have that one overall versatile enough athlete. I think that he's used to having, or certainly that he's had in Texas the last, couple of years, 3 years, I guess. But and it could also be a personnel matchup. They see a weak link in the front of the defense, and they're going to try to attack a certain position or a certain person or whatever. I don't know what the answer is, but teams that are really good at running the football, it, Rod. You've seen it. It's like, it's so defeating as a defense whenever you go, okay, here it comes. Here comes our power. It's 3rd and 2. It's coming. We know it's coming. Stop it. And they run it. Everybody knows what they're going to run. It's their bread and butter, and they get it. Yep. And those are truly good running teams. If you can't do that, then you have to have more of a variety, as you're saying. You have to have more stuff to throw out there because you're not good enough, which I think we should be good enough with our offensive line. But if we're not good enough, then you're trying to just show a lot of different looks and hope you can catch a defense unprepared.
I think the Texas outside zone was kind of their bread and butter money play the last few years. What's the secret to it? And why isn't Texas this year? Why aren't they effective executing outside zone?
Well, first of all, the linemen have to pretty much turn and run straight to the sidelines almost, but they have to do a good job with their feet and with their hands of staying in control and staying in contact with the defensive player who's running to try to stop the play as well. and being able to get up to the second level.
Yeah.
That's, when you've got a linebacker that can just scrape and just run free all the way, and when by the time your back thinks there's a hole, he can turn up. And that's what the back's doing. He just can keep going outside until he finds a crease, and then he'll break it upfield. But when you got a linebacker untouched that's scraping over and meeting him when he turns up, and that's what I've been seeing a lot of, not getting second level blocks. It's hard enough for an offensive lineman to turn and run laterally, but then to also have the speed to run laterally, but also get vertical enough to cut off a linebacker. And those are a couple of problems that I've seen. Linemen not being able to maintain their blocks on that outside zone because defensive linemen just turn and run, and us not being able to get to second level.
Oh, good stuff, Coach. That's why Coach brings the wisdom here on Football Theory. All right, let's thank our sponsors one more time. Thank you to our good friends over at MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Remember, use the promo code ONTexas to cash in on that double deposit bonus. You can double the cash in your account before you even place your first bet over at MyBookie. Do it right now for a limited time only. Use that code ONTexas. And don't forget about MyBookie Plus, their loyalty rewards program for you seasoned bettors and winners over at mybookie.ag. Thank you very much, Coach. We appreciate all the knowledge, as always. I'm a smarter football theorist because of you. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Thank you to our sponsor over at MyBookie. And thank you to all of you guys for watching and for listening. And until next time, for Coach, for Matthew, and for our friends over at MyBookie, hook 'em horns.